She thumps a cane and drinks champagne. She's formidable and judgmental, but we can guarantee that she's a quintessential Lady D, but recognizes great potential. What would Danbury do?
Welcome to What Would Danbury Do, your guide to Julia Quinn's Bridgerton series from A to V. In the second epilogue for Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, Penelope and Colin are starting to live their best newlywed life post the big Whistledown reveal, but there's still one person who doesn't know. Come for the revealing secrets, stay for Hyacinth. Rudy insists we say this. And don't forget you can find us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook and join the conversation using the hashtag WWDD pod.
It was just a really wonderful experience, because I was at the beach and I had Ada with me and we were just lying on a towel and reading, and you could really tell that the only thing that there's nothing between Melbourne and the Antarctic when it came to the water. But everybody there was really socially distant. People who were just sitting on their beach were wearing masks. Literally everybody was doing the best thing that they possibly could in order to make sure that we got to continue going to the beach. But Adele and I spoke on Friday night and we were like, maybe we should do something on Tuesday. And then neither of us followed up with it because I think that it's just, we're all so exhausted.
I didn't do anything differently. I'm still picking up my groceries and staying homebound, but I did have 2 house guests on Sunday to come and meet Maggie, my beloved dog, and it was just nice to have my very first house guests in my new place. So, and then happily my friend's husband does fix stuff and he couldn't help himself, so he fixed my outdoor set. So,
well,
shall we get started?
Yeah.
All right, hold on. I'm Kate.
Hi, I'm Adele.
And I'm Rudy.
Given that it's Penelope and Colin, I actually am going to have a reasonably hard time, I think, coming up with a What the Featherington, because it was okay, but it was kind of bland.
It's middling at best.
Well, that was the thing. I felt like it was fine. It's not. I'm not as deeply opposed to it as some of the others. It didn't undo. You know how I was saying the Viscount Who Loved Me second epilogue, that I actively resented that because I felt like it was slowly unpicking things that I love about Kate and Anthony's relationship. And I don't think that did this, but I also don't. It's it's on par with Daphne and Simon, I guess, is where I'm going with this. If you desperately love this couple, yeah, you will probably enjoy it. Mostly.
I failed to not read it in the queer perspective that Rudy discussed in the preview. I'm of course she's upset.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating to me the way that for a series that is so aggressively heterosexual, if ever there was a queer couple, it is absolutely Penelope and Eloise. And the way that it keeps kind of happening, there's this moment, I'm fairly sure it's Penelope is thinking about her relationship with Eloise versus her relationship with her husband, Colin.
I know exactly the one you're talking about. It's the one where she was Eloise and she were as close as sisters, no closer. And it was her relationship with Eloise that had really informed her adult self.
Yeah.
More than anybody else in the world.
And it just...
Ding, ding, ding!
But you're just sort of left sitting there being I'm trying not to get too kind of over the top about it because not all love is sexual love. Platonic love is definitely a thing, and it's if you only want to read it as that, it is really lovely that they have this really deep friendship, and it's, they're two women that don't get pit against each other, and that they they fully appreciate the nuances within each other and all of that. But it also is just so fucking romantic, the way that they think about each other and talk to each other, that I just kind of, yeah.
No, you're right. I mean, you're right. I mean, I know that it's our favorite theory, and I do love reading it with that queer lens on. But even taking that lens off, it's a beautiful friendship. It's a lovely relationship. And there's something so nice about this little epilogue in which you hear them sort of re-cement their friendship and manage any of the potential hurt feelings from keeping secrets to the point where, you know, they come out of it stronger and more understanding of each other and each other's strengths by the end of it. And that's a really lovely way to read it as well.
The other thing is, because, I mean, kind of the whole point of this second epilogue is so that Penelope is able to, on a page, tell Eloise that she is Lady Whistledown. And it happens sort of in the midst of Eloise's wedding to Sir Philip. I couldn't help comparing the reaction that Eloise gives to learning this secret that her best friend has kept from her for so many years, comparing that to the reaction that Colin had when he learned that Penelope, who he's not particularly close to at the time, had kept a secret from him about her, like, identity as this columnist. Like, this is how you behave when someone you loves tells you something about themselves. You support them. You get excited for them. You don't resent it.
You're proud of them.
Yes.
And for all that they've accomplished.
You recognize, the skill and the...
And you don't make it all about you.
And the fact that, like, you probably, like, they were right to keep that secret because you're bad at keeping secrets and you would have spilt.
I know that Hyacinth is supposed to be this plucky, entertaining character. I just thought her reveal kind of sucked all the oxygen out of the story. Like they were building to something and it kind of just was just really anticlimactic, really.
I actually think it's kind of interesting the way that Quinn did the reveal because it was building. And I don't think that she could have written the reveal in a way that would have been satisfying if Eloise didn't already know. Like having the reveal happen off stage or off page, I guess, it allows everybody to imagine Eloise reacting the way that you would expect her to react. It's like one of those things where, you know, when you have a book that you really love and then you find it that they're making a movie out of it and then they reveal the cast and you're like, fuck no. That's totally not right because you have an idea in your head of what it should be and the reality never lives up to it. I think narratively speaking, it was probably a bit clever of her to have that reaction off page and then allow everybody to imagine it the way that they wanted it to. But it did feel very much like the reveal was about Hyacinth. Like it was very much, you know, she was playing more with Hyacinth than she was with any of the major players in this particular epilogue. And I understand that Hyacinth is, you know, supposed to take over every room that she walks into and everything, but I think that's part of the reason why I find Hyacinth more irritating than I do charming. And I know I might be, you know, alone in this.
No,
because...
I agree completely. It's kind of the Kylie Scott Mal character as well, who everyone finds quite charming and like almost hyperactive. And I just find them like really aggravating. And I think you've made the good point, Kate, about expectation. But I would have loved it if Eloise said she knew all along, because that's a sign of a real friend. Is sometimes you know what they're feeling or thinking, but you have to give them their space.
I actually had kind of assumed that she had figured it out the same way that Cressida figured it out. She had noticed the commonalities between the way that Lady Whistledown wrote and Penelope spoke, because of anybody, Eloise is the one best placed to notice that. So either Penelope's writing voice is very different to her, like, yeah, to who she presents, or I don't know, or Eloise is not as perceptive, or it's a plot
She
hole.
is a Bridgerton, which means they are self-centered and they are super competitive. So I guess if she had known the whole time, like, she wouldn't have let someone else beat her to the punch. You know what I mean? Like, because the Bridgertons are fucking competitive. Like, and if they're right, they like to crow about it. So I just feel like there's a more interesting story in this than there is. And I think that's some of my frustration, because we know Quinn can do amazing things. So I think I'm just a little bit disappointed, like a parent looking at a child who's done something fucked up.
Well, okay, so I know that you guys both found Hyacinth kind of exasperating, but
you love her.
I love her in general, but in particular in this, like, I was not really feeling it until she arrived and started negotiating her bribes.
Yeah.
I think the problem with Hyacinth for me, so I think she kind of functions a little bit like Deus Ex Hyacinth. Quinn realizes it's not working, so she drops Hyacinth into the mix to see what happens. Like, my PhD supervisor, Kim Wilkins, is a fantasy writer. And when she started writing contemporary women's fiction, she said that she found it really hard because all the other times when pacing would slow down, she'd just throw a ghost in, and she couldn't do that anymore. And I feel a little bit like Quinn does that with Hyacinth. Like, this scene is really boring and I don't know what to do with it. I'll just throw Hyacinth into the mix and then, poof, all my pacing problems are solved.
Oh, no, that's so true. But sometimes she uses Colin, but Colin was boring in this one. So he was already there and boring. So she had to throw something else into the mix. You're completely right. It's not a ghost. A ghost would have been amazing.
Oh my God, that would have been awesome. It's Deus Ex Hyacinth in this case.
Well, yeah, because Philip's home is the Gothic setting.
I liked how, as they were driving up, Colin kept saying, it's really run down, it's really horrible. And Penelope's like, but look at the beautiful gardens. And he's like, yeah, wait till you see the inside.
It's a bit like Philip himself.
True. Ooh, we never picked up on that in the previous episode on Philip and
It's
Eloise.
very Austen-esque. Because isn't that the whole kind of Darcy thing? Like, Pemberley is Darcy. And to truly know him, you must have, you have to actually go to his estate.
I thought you were about to say you had to be inside him.
Yeah, I totally
That
thought
too.
that's where you're going to. And I was like, right, okay, so that's anal sex that we talk about twice in 2 podcasts. It's weird that Oliver and Amanda didn't show up. I suppose it's Colin and Penelope's epilogue, but so much was happening around Eloise and Philip. It's weird that, Eloise didn't introduce Penelope to her 2 children that now exist in the world.
Yeah.
And she will be an aunt as well. Not only best friend, aunt. That's fucked. What are you doing, Eloise?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what Regency weddings were like whether they're like weddings nowadays when, strictly no kids allowed or whatever.
Well, I mean, Bridgerton weddings certainly allow for children because Hyacinth, as a much younger child, and Gregory, they both went to Daphne's wedding to Simon.
Yeah, the sneezing, right?
Oh, I finally found the bit about Eloise and Penelope that is just, so gay. It just... and because it's nice to... I really enjoy when we have, the actual quotes to kind of prove our point. So I'm going to read it. Eloise was her dearest friend. Colin was her love, her passion, and her soul. But it was Eloise more than anyone who had shaped Penelope's adult life. Penelope could not imagine what the last decade would have been like without Eloise's smile, her laughter, and her Why did I do this to myself? Indefatigable good cheer. Kate, you look like you want to...
Indefatigable.
Yep, that's what I said. Even more than her own family, Eloise had loved her. Yeah, it just,
so gay.
You guys love each other. Just, you're the couple now.
it's backed up later on in the story as well, because Colin says something about it too. Oh, wait, hold on.
Yeah, where he's
Yeah,
thinking
hold on.
about
Yeah, I'm
his-
actually at the page.
Mm.
So he says, talking about Penelope, her friendship with his sister was something he held in both awe and respect. He was close to his brothers, extremely so, but he had never seen a bond of friendship quite so deep as that between Penelope and Eloise.
Well, yeah, actually, because, like, the Bridgerton boys don't really have friends, do they? I mean, like, Anthony has Simon. That's about it.
That's so true, actually, now that
But,
I
like,
think about it. They only talk to their siblings.
Particularly, but, like, it's particularly telling with Colin because he's, like, he's the one that is, like, super charming and he's, like, everyone's friend and he's so popular. But who is his friends?
But he
But
keeps
can you be
taking off
popular
and
without
going.
friends?
He's going traveling all the time by himself. I mean, honestly, okay, this part doesn't actually irritate me very much, namely because there's just so many of them that, like, trying to keep up with all of their lives would be a full-time job in and of itself. Like, if they had to add friends on top of it, they'd never manage. It's just too many people.
Yeah, but
You can't care about that many people.
I guess I just mean that, like, Hyacinth has, like, a noted friend. Eloise has a noted friend in Penelope. Francesca barely exists in that family, so, like, bless her heart.
Wait, she did have a friend.
Did she?
Michael.
Oh, yeah, true. Okay, yeah. I'll pay that.
But she does have her mothers-in-laws as well, so...
I mean, Daphne kind of, she talks about how, like, she's sort of popular in that vague way. I was like, yeah,
Which
fair enough.
maybe she's not popular. Maybe Daphne's
Well, no, I
in
think,
denial.
well, like, I think maybe Daphne is like Colin and Benedict and Gregory in that, like, people say, like, people chat to them, but they're not close with anyone.
I mean, you can be popular without having close friends. Like, you can be popular with and well-liked with a number of people who don't actually know you very well. And with a family of that size, I think, a family of that size who also make a point of being that close to each other, I think, realistically, it kind of makes a little bit of sense. It makes less sense with the boys because they would have gone away to school and presumably, like, had lots of friends among the other...
That they lived with in a boarding house.
Yeah. Maybe that tells us everything we need to know about the Bridgerton men.
Look, I mean, like, you guys know my stance on friendship and, like, so it's really difficult for me to compute this idea of, like, not having a list that you can, like, refer back to.
Oh, well, I mean, they have a list. It's just that their list is all their siblings, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Alphabetical list. Instead of a numbers game, like a numbering system, you move to a letter grade system, or just a thumbs up and thumbs down.
Anyway, there was something else that I was going to bring up, and I'm trying to remember what it was, and whether like we covered it before I semi-derailed us.
There was something I wanted to say a little bit about playing into the queer take on this show, on this relationship. I really felt like there was a little bit of, like, an echo to Star Wars with Eloise in that. Like, I am Whistledown. I know. I was like, yeah, I'm getting some Han Solo vibes here. I can see it. Eloise in some leather breeches and yeah.
So that's something that I've been thinking about so much because I feel like, and I don't remember if we've actually said this on the show explicitly, but I feel like Penelope is quite sincerely in love with both Colin and Eloise, whereas Eloise is sincerely in love with Penelope and is settling for Philip. Like, that's where I feel the dynamic is. Nothing that has happened on any pages has convinced me otherwise.
There's a bit of pathos to it then when you think about it that way. Like, there's just always this sort of undercurrent of Eloise loving more
Yeah.
and never quite being able to get what she wants and holding on to Penelope in the only way that she knows how. It makes sense, though. I mean, Eloise, in many ways, is so much more self-aware. And also, I think, just more generally sophisticated than Penelope is. So it would make sense that she would not only be aware that women can be in love with each other, but also that even knowing that doesn't mean that they can be together, and that sometimes keeping somebody in your life the only way that you can is the way that it has to be. Oh, now I'm really depressed, Rudy. That's really sad. Let's go back to the beautiful friendship reading of it, where it was just lovely and celebrated the fact that friendships can be as deep and meaningful as romantic relationships, if not more.
Really flattened me out, Kate. It really did.
But this is, I know,
it's really so sad.
I'm so sorry. And I think, I don't know, for whatever reason, and I'm not going to look too hard at this, but I read Eloise as a lesbian and Penelope as bisexual.
I don't have anything else to say, Rudy. I'm out.
That's right. We're up to What the Featheringtons.
Look, I'm happy to hop onto anybody else's What the Featherington.
Yeah. I don't have one. I don't have one.
Oh, okay.
Except the fact that Amanda and Oliver are nowhere to be seen.
Well, my What the Featherington. So Hyacinth decides to negotiate for a bribe from Colin for £20 to not tell Eloise. And then she also negotiates with Eloise to tell her a secret that everyone else knows but her by getting £25. And while I was reading it, I was like, just 2 epilogues ago, the going rate for a bribe was £5 for like a butler or a footman or whatever. And it just doesn't sit super well with me that, because they make a big deal at that in that book about that £5 being that dude's annual wage. And all of a sudden, Hyacinth has managed to score herself realistically £35 because she only gets paid half up front by Colin. And I just went like, that sucks. That annoyed me.
All right, I'm just trying. I've found a inflation calculator as to, well, I mean, I suppose that is a little bit of a What the Featherington too. I mean, like, they said that £5 was the like maid's yearly salary, or something, which is less than $400 today, and £25 today is worth just under £2,000. So Hyacinth cleaned up is what I'm telling you here. Like £2,000 for a secret that Eloise could have waited from 2 a.m. to like 7 a.m. to find out.
Well, that's also, I mean, that's, I have so much respect for Hyacinth of playing both sides against each other and coming out like well on top. Because yeah, she...
well on top.
But also like Colin was only willing to pay that £5 the first time to be able to get the Mallet of Death, steal the Mallet of Death. And then, yeah, he must have become vastly better at negotiating, or just like is a way more stingy with servants than he is with his own sister.
I mean, there's 100% a discussion to be held about classism right here.
Yep.
In terms of what you are willing to pay your sister to keep a secret versus what you are actually paying your servants to do things like clean jam off your shirts and stuff. So maybe our What the Featherington can be like, Bridgertons, pay your fucking servants a fucking living wage, and then we can discuss.
Well, yeah, because look, in one of the reasons that I noticed the numbers is because the first time it came up in The Viscount Who Loved Me, I very definitely highlighted it as a potential What the Featherington, because I got really mad. I was like, that's outrageously low.
I'm without a Featherington.
Yeah, look, as I said, it was innocuous. It was an innocuous epilogue.
I don't accept this. You have to have one. At least one more of you.
All right, hold on just a second. I mean, I have a What the Featherington that's an incredibly... I have a What the Featherington that is an incredibly contemporary and thus not appropriate whatsoever for this discussion. But it really irritates me how Violet is all like, let's have grandchildren. Go have grandchildren. Are you pregnant yet? Let's have another grandchild. And I'm like, they just got married. Like, let them have their own reproductive decision making. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Colin tied Eloise to a tree so she didn't follow him into a local public inn. But cutting her hair was going over the line. But he tied her to a fucking tree.
So, God, I really wish that, like, when you brought up What the Featheringtons, I didn't always have a story to be like, that's a thing. Because
tell.
Oh my gosh. All right, we need to hear this story.
Why is this always... Anyway, because I clocked that line and I was like, oh yeah, because when I was very young, like toddler, I have an older brother. We're really close in age. I don't know what game we had been playing, but my mum was like hanging washing out on the line and he comes out and she's like, where is your sister? He goes, don't worry about it. I sorted her out. What does that mean? What it means is he tied me to a chair and just left me there. So Mum came back inside and I was screaming. But also because he was quite young and I was quite young, what he had actually done was, like, I was wearing a dressing gown and he had taken the little tie that you have for the dressing gown and tied it behind me to a chair. So all I had to actually do was take the dressing gown off and I'd have been totally free. But I had not figured that out. Yeah. So that, and then, like, knowing that story, because that's not something I remember, but it is a family story. And then when we were like, I would have been about 10 or 11 and I was playing with him and our older brother was looking after us. And like while our parents were out, and there's quite a big age gap between that eldest brother and me and my brother. Like, I think there's like 15 years. Anyway, like, he tied me to a chair again. And then he got bored of the game, so he left. He went inside to watch cricket with our brother.
Oh my God.
Our parents came home, opened up the roller door to the garage. And there was me sitting tied to a chair and, like, fucking bawling my eyes out. How did it happen twice?
I think the difference between you and I there are two differences. First, I don't have any brothers. I only have sisters. And our torture was way more psychological than it was physical. We were not allowed to physically hurt each other, but there was no such rules about psychologically torturing each other. And two, I'm the oldest.
Well, I mean, I have a brother, but he's the baby, and boy, did he get tortured.
Well, yeah, so I think that's one of the differences here is, yeah, I have an older brother. And because it didn't start out mean, like, it was very definitely a game. It's just that he got bored and decided not to untie me first. Like...
Oh, I can't imagine you going quietly, though, Rudy.
I was not quiet.
When I was 5, I got babysat by 3 15-year-old boys. And they made me watch Jaws with them. And
how do you feel about ocean swimming now?
I don't like the ocean and never have. I also don't like sand, so it's a twofer.
Yeah, they thought it was hysterical, and I'm scarred for life. So, cheers, boys.
I grew up next to the beach, and so my family have developed a habit of, like, we used to call sharks dunga dungas. Oh, watch out, going out too far, they can get taken by a dunga dunga. And it sounds like an Aboriginal word, and it's not. It is unique to my family, and we've made it up. And it's because of the music in Jaws. But because we're... Sorry.
And excellent parenting decisions. Ada and I watched The Meg yesterday, and she loved it and really wants to watch other big shark movies. So I feel like genes will out. Blood will out, my friends.
No.
Deep Blue Sea.
Deep Blue Sea is the best.
I love it so
Samuel
much.
L. Jackson's awesome in that.
Oh, it's so good. It's time for
What Would Danbury Do?
This is where we imagine Lady Danbury as the ultimate agony aunt, dispensing advice to the lovelorn of Regency England and beyond. This week, Haddasah from Tasha L. Harrison's contemporary erotica, Liquor and Laundry, has a question. Dear Lady Danbury, I've had a crush on Ahmad since, well, a really long time. Anyway, the last time I saw him, I drank too much and spent the night on my knees in his hotel room. Now we're both back in town. I live here, but he's just visiting, and I don't know if I can face him. What would Danbury do?
So, realistically, in this situation, I would say he's just visiting. There is a legitimate argument to be made for avoiding the hell out of him and trying to forget it ever happened.
My feeling is Danbury would say he's just visiting. Insist on him returning the favor as is due to you.
That's true. They do not have a balanced checkbook at this point in time. It depends on how bold she's feeling. She should go out, drink again, and then show up at his hotel room and be like, buddy, unfinished business.
Downtown.
And then see what happens
on his door.
So, what I loved about this book is that despite first appearances, he has a crush on her back, and it just was this, like, kind of, he's feeling just as awkward about that one night and their history of that, because he doesn't really know if it only happened because they had been drinking, or if it, like he's kind of held this crush.
Use your words, man. Yes.
Well, okay, if he had a crush, then why didn't he, why didn't it go beyond just...
Because he left town. He moved.
That night? Like, he went, hey, babe, thanks for the blowy, and then, like, packed his bag?
Well, like, it was... Not quite that night, but, like, they were both it was the end of high school and he went to college.
Look, here is what I think. Women and other people who enjoy sucking cock do not generally put cock in their mouths for no reason. Like, you probably generally like the person to whom that cock is attached before you go putting it in your mouth. Yeah, he needs to use his words and also balance his checkbook.
So what's really lovely about this novella is that between that one night and sort of where they're at now, like a fair bit of time has passed, and Ahmad very definitely has a crush on Hattie, and so despite the fact that she's kind of not done much to show any more interest beyond their one thing, he goes looking for her and he brings along jerk chicken, and he finds her at her family's laundromat, and it just, it's quite sweet but also very hot. And Hattie is someone who she kind of self-describes as being too much, which when we were in the second epilogue, we kind of hit that moment where Eloise is talking about how Philip had told her that she talks too much, and she and Penelope have this sort of discussion about, well, you do, but I like that about you. Like, that's what's nice about you. And there's this, God, you can tell that that's my ship, because there is this moment in Liquor and Laundry where Hattie and Ahmed are talking about how Hattie sees herself as being too much, and she is that girl that's like, and he says that he likes that about her, and that's what attracts him to her. And I was like, yeah, you do. Because, like, it's
to read
nice. It's also, I mean, she's also a fat character, like a fat heroine, and I was like, oh, yes. She wears crop tops and like her fashion, because she actually is an emerging fashion designer, so she makes her own clothes that is just gorgeous. I kind of hope to find someone who makes stuff like hers. Anyway, that's Liquor and Laundry by Tasha L. Harrison.
That's all for this episode of What Would Danbury Do? We'll be back in a fortnight. Psh, that's 2 weeks. With To Sir Love. All right. Sorry. Oh my God. With To Sir Philip with Love's second epilogue. In the meantime, you can find us at Twitter and Instagram as @BridgertonPod, or send us an email at bridgertonpod@gmail.com. If you're enjoying the podcast, we would love it if you could leave us a rating or review at your favorite podcast provider. There are too many for me to mention. This episode was recorded on the traditional and unceded land of the Gadigal, Wurundjeri and Boonwurrung people, and edited by audio producer Rudy Bremer on Gadigal country. Thanks for listening, and remember, WWDD.
What Would Danbury Do is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. Find more podcasts you'll love at frolic.media/podcasts.